Hello my friends and welcome, my name is Dennis and this is the latest update from Ukraine, and not only, as you can see. The events in Syria are evolving hour by hour, very fast, so I recorded the video a few hours ago, edited it, and the situation already changed dramatically. Yes, I'm still gonna play the full video before because it's very important to listen to the development of the situation, but the outcome, well, simply Damascus fell for the Assad regime. Assad regime is no more in Syria, it's over. The question goes for the Russian bases, but evacuation there is on a full scale already. I'm gonna speak about it in the video. There was the information that some of the Ilyushin-76 flown from Damascus and crash-landed near Homs, but I don't have the confirmation of this information so far. Some even say that Assad was on board, but I don't have any sort of the proofs for this hour. So I just hope that there will be peace in Syria, because there are still so many forces exist there who might after all have the confrontation between each other. Well, we'll see. Anyways, the news are quite positive for Ukraine because Russia is losing its influence in the Middle East. It's completely vanished there. Russians definitely suffered a great defeat and they're very angry about it. The Assad's army is running away from Damascus. There are some of the soldiers who took their belongings and tried to leave some of the areas, their positions basically. Yes, you may say that they're just changing their positions, but at the same time they're also changing their clothes to civilian one. Yeah, but some of the channels might reassure you that it is the undercover mission to fight more effectively. But the fact is the fact, Syria is mostly lost for Assad. Just yesterday we saw this picture where the fights were ongoing for Homs, where rebels slowed down a little after they took Hama city, and where the resistance on the south just started to rise. But now the city of Homs has been taken by rebels already and they're moving southbound. Palmyra city was also taken by other forces. My friends, if I mention all of the forces there in Syria which now are taking place to fight against the Assad regime, well, it will take the vast part of this video. No one really likes Assad there except probably Russia. By the way, not a long time ago there were presidential elections. Assad won it. We're gonna speak about those later in this video. So here, by taking Homs, it is already understandable that the Russian military bases are now being cut from Damascus, but Damascus will fall in a matter of hours, maybe days. So on Monday we'll see that rebels or any sort of the opposition forces will take Damascus under their control. So basically we are witnessing a very fast end of the Bashar Assad's regime, the regime that was stable 1 week ago, at least on the territories it was controlling. And the current situation will help us to predict of what might happen in Russia, by the way. That's why I'm kind of cheerful, you know, and this situation after all is very, very profitable for Ukraine, because it is weakening Russia and harms the Russian reputation a lot. So it's the latest information I have from Damascus. The city is surrounded by the opposition forces. Total panic among the military of Assad's regime. They don't know what to do. As I showed you at the very beginning, they're changing their clothes for the civilian one. They want to avoid being repressed. Well, after all, I don't think that they will be repressed too much, because those are just soldiers and they might serve in future for the opposition forces, let's say. Meanwhile, we have the statement from the General Commander of the Syrian Armed Forces, so Bashar Assad's regime. Looks like from the comedy video: do not believe all the lies spread on media. Our army continues its operation in Homs, Aleppo and Hama, and it inflicts losses on terrorists. It shouldn't be the final reaction video or something, but you know, we have what we have. But the most interesting stuff here is the reaction of the pro-Russian channels on Twitter, or for example on Telegram. The victory of Syria depends on Syrian army, not Russian or Iran. The Syrian armed forces is 200,000 plus strong. Where are these men? The Spetsnaz 007 asks. Well, they run faster than Usain Bolt in his record sprint. That's the only response I may give here. The Russian Air Force has provided full air superiority. What else do they want? What are they waiting for? Even I'm confused, but I keep the hope. Well, Spetsnaz 007, it seems like your hope is faded away already. Guys, I'm happy because there will be no Bashar Assad dictatorship in Syria. Yes, the rapidly changing military situation may bring some of the challenges to the region, but I think it is solvable. And most of all, I'm happy because Russia loses its influence. It's the strong, tremendous hit on Russia. And all of the sides mainly are taking the advantages from it. For example, today the United States-backed Kurdish forces started their move towards the retreating Assad forces. They already left this area. And the Russians are taking everything they may take right now and leave their military bases. I'm speaking about the Khmeimim air base and also Tartus base. The Tartus naval base is already empty. Here you can see no fighter jets, no tactical bombers on the apron, just some of the fighter jets left on the parking stands here. Maybe some are in the Caponiers, but Russia also could have taken them already. While Russians still have some of the transport airplanes, including the big Ruslan Antonov 124, it's over here. Those airplanes will be used to take the equipment from the military base. I do not even exclude that Russia may destroy some of the systems there because they will not be able to take those with them. Like, for example, the air defense systems they require many of the flights to be conducted from the base. So if rebels are fast, they may take control over those, so Russians may just kaboom them themselves. So Reds are running from the ship which is now sinking. The ship is the Assad's regime, not the future of Syria. I was really surprised to see this kind of the weaponry that rebels have, some sort of the very old First World War or the Second one cannon could be successful in some way. And they showed that they definitely hit something with it. So the mighty Syrian army under support of the Russian Air Force with air superiority is just running because Turkey sent some of their relatively small gear to the rebels, that's it. And it really shows the demotivation of the Syrian soldiers and the weakness of Russia, really. Even Donald Trump today in his statement said that Russia lost 600,000 soldiers in Ukraine and seems incapable of stopping this literal march through Syria. So all of the efforts of Russia, all of their losses in Syria were for nothing. Donald Trump here obviously among the opponent party, Democratic one, with President Obama and his decisions by the time, but he also said that Damascus obviously preparing to make a very big move towards taking out Assad, so it's imminent. Even Donald Trump says about it openly, it's just a matter of maybe 2 days or 2 hours. This video was filmed exactly 7 years ago, December the 7th, by the time I'm recording this video. Then President of Russia attended Syria. So what did he say upon his visit there? That Russia reached one of the main goals in Syria, but if their enemies will raise their heads again, the Russian army from their bases in Tartus and Khmeimim will strike them so hard and with those means that they haven't seen before. And today we just witnessed how the Russian army evacuates itself from the Tartus base and from Khmeimim. I guess that something is wrong here for Russia, but Russian Z Patriot, remember, everything goes according to plan. One more Russian propaganda channel. Syria is collapsing so quick, it's insane. Guys, it's been a while since I have the pleasure to read those Russian comments. I remember the last time they were shocked about the Ukrainian operation in Kherson and the goodwill gesture that the Russian military command performed there, just fleeing out from the city in a matter of one night. But here the scale of the defeat of the Bashar Assad and Russia is much larger. The question is whether the rebel forces will be able to get control over this area with the Russian bases very fast. Because as I said to you before, there are some of the mountains which they should cross. But you know guys, it's just a matter of time and efforts. I promised to tell you about the elections in Syria which happened 3 years ago, where Bashar al-Assad was re-elected for a 4th term with 95% of votes. All of the country supports Assad, so it's logical that they should stand the ground and fight, not to run away elsewhere. So what is happening now? After 3 years they changed dramatically, or maybe they just didn't support Assad and the elections were just faked, as usual in dictatorship countries. And this situation reminds me the elections in Russia this year, where Putin got 87% of the votes. Yeah, we honestly believe that. And you know, after all, the outcome for Russia will be the same as for Syria. It will just collapse in a matter of week, maybe even faster. So a few days ago, everything was stable, like the Russian aviation was in Crimea, the Russian military ships were stationed in Tartus ports, Syria, Assad was doing his usual dictator stuff, but here, no more. Very fast. The Soviet Union collapse also, after all, happened very fast, so the Russian collapse is imminent with this regime. Those regimes just cannot live for extended period of time. The only exclusion probably is North Korea, but that country is completely cut from the outside world. They just work sometimes with other dictators like Russia or China. But for Russia, after all, it's just impossible to be cut from the outside world. Well, actually, guys, that's why Putin started his war in Ukraine. He wants Russia to be big, respectable country, like some sort of the Russian Empire or Soviet Union. He doesn't want to integrate into the democratic world. No, he wants to change the world as it was in a Cold War period. But it was his big mistake, so he will lose like Assad regime lost in Syria. And remember this guy, Shoigu Gerasimov, and how he went on his trip to Moscow. No one stopped him. There were some of the attempts from the Russian aviation, and they shut down some of the helicopters and airplane, but in general there was no resistance. 87% of Russians didn't support Putin by the time. They were actually very cheerful towards the Wagner army, especially in Rostov. And what Putin did by the time, well, he just fled from Moscow. I still wonder why Prigozhin didn't make it. Maybe he was afraid that Russia will finally collapse. Yeah, probably it could have happened like that. But still better than to be shot by Putin in his airplane. But you know, guys, it's just a matter of time that there will be other Prigozhin, and today's events in Syria expedite that process. And the more of the Russian elite will understand that Putin is not able to protect them as well, the faster it will be the collapse of Russian regime, probably Russia itself, in the way we know it. So that's why the events happening in Syria are so important even for Ukrainian topic. So do not ask me why do I speak about Syria. The picture from Damascus International Airport really reminds me the situation happened in Kabul. Then people who were working with the previous Afghan officials tried to flee the country, but it was already too late. And as it is reported for this hour, the air traffic control tower has already been taken under control by the opposition forces. And you know, guys, finally there was the meeting in Doha between the representatives of three of the countries, Turkey, Iran and Russia. Yes, Lavrov is sitting here, but Lavrov is not a decisive power in Russia. And after the events happening in Syria, he's there just for the furniture. And after the talks, the sides came to conclusion that the violence should be stopped. Yes, the pink ponies and rainbows should be delivered to Syria as fast as possible to ensure that violence is stopped. Alright, now let's go to Ukrainian topic. Miraculously, Ukraine was successful in the Kursk region, taking a couple of the villages under control, Pogrebki and probably Orlivka, or Orlovka on Russian. It was a small counterattack performed by a Ukrainian army, but it was also the response on the Russian attack which happened recently. Here Ukraine was more successful, as you see. Just for you to understand, Ukraine uses the most capable brigades out there. That's why they're able to secure the ground against the Russian prevailing army. Russia has more of the troops, more of the resources, but still they're now struggling. I heard some of the rumors, mostly spread by the Russian channels, that Ukraine is getting ready to strike once again with enormous forces in the Kursk region and attempt to get the Kursk nuclear power plant under control, but for now those are just rumors. I'm sure that Ukraine is not ready for those kind of the operations. And it is already too late, especially when we speak about the Kursk region, because basically Russians will be not caught off guard as it was at the very start of the Kursk operation. So Russia sent 50,000 troops there, and obviously it's useless to attack those right now. Well, let's check out what update do we have from the deep state military map source. Yes, they have the information about the enemy movement in Shevchenka area, so it's not far away from Pokrovsk. The fight for Pokrovsk will happen very soon. I expect maybe at the end of this month, maybe even in the middle, if they continue to move with the present pace they have. Still, Russians need to expand this bridgehead more for the further advancement, and they're not moving from this part. I expect them to take probably this road to go to Pokrovsk, but Ukraine still controls Mirnograd, so overall we are speaking about this big common settlement. If I was the Russian general, Jesus Christ, hell no, no. It's just my prediction what they will do. So they will advance from this side for sure, maybe from Shevchenko to this side, and they also will go between those two settlements and also from this side. So they need to expand from this lake here too. Otherwise, Ukraine may manage its forces much better for defense if Russians wouldn't advance simultaneously from multiple directions. But we'll see what they do. After all, Russians learn on their mistakes, unfortunately. About the situation here, very dramatic in Uspenica. So Russians went to that settlement. You may see the expansion of the gray area. However, for the last 24 hours, there was no movement. Some of our commanders said, yes, that definitely this is a very difficult situation. It's very strange that Ukraine still controls those villages under this huge risk of being encircled. What else changed today? Well, over here, the previously Ukraine regained territories were taken by Russia. Here, the green territories were liberated by Ukraine back in 2023 during the counteroffensive, which basically failed, as you know. So now Russians are going on their offensive towards Velika Novosilka. Also, Russians moved in towards quite a lot for the last 24 hours. And we have more information about it from the Maiko 73 analytic. He shows this map that definitely Russians took some ground. Mostly they advanced here with the help of just infantry forces and artillery, plus aviation gliding bombs. Well, the good thing that the United States under the current White House administration are reinforcing Ukrainian military, so Ukraine will have some of the extra resources to fight against Russia during this winter campaign. But what might happen the next summer or spring, yet it is early to say. The good thing that there is still some of the communication between political leaders of two of the countries, like for example today there was the big meeting, as you probably know, dedicated to the Notre Dame Cathedral reopening after the huge fire almost fully devastated it. Well, there was kind of the short meeting between Donald Trump and Zelensky. All of the Russian Z bloggers among Zelensky said that the meeting was short, Trump didn't put attention, Trump looked like that and Zelensky looked like this on Zelensky. And so on, so on. So they put this topic up front of the events happening in Syria. But why Putin is not there, you know? Russians, where is Putin? Yeah, probably in a bunker sitting right now with a fear for his life after what happened to Bashar Assad's regime. Yeah, Bashar Assad will obviously flee Syria, he will secure his life, but his regime will fall. But you know, Putin has nowhere to go. Where would he go? To North Korea? So politicians speak and it is good. I didn't know that this YouTuber exists until he published this video. His name is Johnny Harris. He recently published kind of the long video, why people blame America for the war in Ukraine, where from what I understood he blamed NATO for expansion. But I cannot watch this video right now because he deleted it after the hate wave probably. Well, later on he said that he will record one more or less correct video on this topic. It's the first time actually I see this guy, but he has 6 million subscribers, like even more a little, which absolutely doesn't mean that it is the reliable source of information, because you know, in the social media you may be fed by absolute everything. So it's up to you to choose and filter the information, my friends, because Russian propaganda works also a lot on X, also on YouTube, Telegram, TikTok, everywhere. It's their tool. You see, the battle on the ground is not that effective compared to the battle for your personal mind. If those influencers convince you of something without any proofs and real stories, think about it. I sometimes watch Jake Bro, but honestly guys, I try to avoid watching any sort of the military topic aside of my job here, because it's already too depressing for me to search the information from the general media, from Telegram, from X, and watching other people's videos about the war topic. No, it is overwhelming, like for me personally. But here I like the tweet of Jake Bro, the expansion of the Soviet bloc during the period after the Second World War. You see that actually with liberating the vast part of Europe from the Nazis, Soviet Union applied their own regime in many of the countries, also in Germany. And the outcome of the Soviet influence we feel even right now, even in Germany, yes. In countries like Czech Republic and Hungary, there was direct military intervention of the Soviet Union after the riots sparked, because they didn't want this regime in their countries. Moreover, guys, listen the story. I'm from Ukraine. I have lots of the relatives. I married on Ukrainian woman who has also her relatives who suffered under the famine which was created by the Soviet bloc. And I'm telling you guys, Russia was always repressing freedoms of people, Ukrainians, Baltic countries, Belarus and their language, Poland, Germany, everyone they were repressing. This is the dictatorship. NATO was basically created to counteract the Soviet influence which happened after the end of the Second World War. And NATO continued to be even after the Soviet Union collapsed because Russia is not a democratic state, as we see. It possessed a threat for Europe. Why did Finland and Sweden join NATO recently? Because it is better to be united against this major threat. And Russia wants to restore its influence. They do not agree that Ukraine is the sovereign state able to choose whether to join NATO or not. For Ukraine, NATO is the only guarantee that Russia wouldn't attack them again. So there is simply no expansion of the NATO bloc whatsoever. Countries are willing to defend themselves. That's it. It's like 2 + 2 = 4. Why should you record those freaking really videos? Spreading some sort of the Russian propaganda. So guys, please take care of the information you consume, because even the big influencers may give you shit. And I also, by the way, recommend you to cross-check the information I give you. I try to validate my information with facts, give my own personal perspective stories, because you may listen to those kind of the influencers, but no one would tell you the situation as it is in Ukraine from the Ukrainian perspective and from the history of the country. And this guy with a small PP does the same job. Well, let's say I spoke with the guy who knows him personally. He assured that Tucker is not obtaining funds from Russia, but Tucker, he said, is the hype chaser. So he would do everything to outstand. He will rise any sort of the conspiracy theories just to pump out from the major media and showing that he's unique to basically attract more views. He doesn't care of the topic really he speaks about. And now, my friends, please don't forget to press your huge like to this video. By doing so, you help me a lot. And as usual, I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are, and have a great time.